Hi everybody! So we're going to do our first episode of Gymnastics Vocab, and we are going to go over some words that you've probably heard us say at gymnastics when the coaches are giving corrections. And some of the words and phrases that we're going to go over are pretty specific to gymnastics, so you might not have heard them at other sports or at school or anything like that, but they come up a ton in different skills and conditioning exercises. So I just want to make sure that we all know what these phrases mean and what the coaches are asking for when they ask for them. So we're going to do a quick review. And we're starting off with the hollow shape and what our core is. So in this review, I'm going to show you what the hollow shape looks like and what engaging your core means. And then we're going to talk about why it's important to know this shape, why it's important to be able to do it correctly. We're going to go over a few skills that require correctly understanding that shape, and we're going to talk about how to practice using that shape in your gymnastics. So just like a handstand is one of the most important skills to know in gymnastics, a hollow body is one of the most important shapes in gymnastics. So when a coach tells you to be more hollow, they're asking you basically to round your shoulders forward and then pull your tummy up and in. So now we can try it ourselves, and I'll have a video that plays that you can try along with, but first I'm going to describe it so you have an idea of what we're going to try. So if we want to start standing up, the easiest way to do it is with your back up against a wall and your arms up by your ears. And that means straight overhead, not your hands by your ears, your arms by your ears. And when your back is flat against the wall and your arms are by your ears, very, very slowly, you're going to look forward towards your toes like this and try and let only your arms and your shoulders leave the wall. So the rest of your back and your legs should still be touching the wall. And that should give you a good hollow through your shoulders. But an even better way to practice this shape requires you to use your core muscles a little bit. And you'll practice laying on the floor and using those muscles to lift yourself up off the floor. So we're going to start with 5, where we just lay flat, like I said, and bring only your arms, your shoulders, and your head up off the floor. And you can kind of see what I was saying, where your stomach goes in a little bit. Some people say drop your belly button down to the floor. After you do 5 of those, we'll switch, and you're going to lift your feet up as well. And your feet will go up about as high as your arms are going. So you can see that my arms are going up a little bit higher this time around, and that's okay. It's just more of a crunch in your stomach. Okay, so now that we know exactly what a hollow looks like and how to squeeze these muscles to find this shape, we can talk about why it's so important for us to practice using the shape in our gymnastics. And at this point in rec gymnastics, we're mostly talking about building strength. In recreational gymnastics, when you're not competing, we want to build these muscles quickly so that we can get comfortable using them and make our gymnastics a lot easier. But that can be kind of tricky because this isn't a muscle group that you use quite as often. It can be easier to kick your feet up into a pullover because you use your legs every day when you run and jump, but you don't use your core quite as frequently to lift your legs off the ground, so it might take a little bit more time to figure out how to engage those muscles, how to make them start working as best they can, and how to make them strong enough to actually do what they need to do. And then later on, as you begin to do tumbling passes and you do bigger swings on bars and harder skills on beam, you'll need this core to stabilize your gymnastics, and it will help protect you if you make a mistake. So having a strong and controlled core, it will take some of the pressure off of the other muscles that take a lot more impact when you're tumbling. Your legs mostly, your knees, your ankles, your hips, they get a lot more impact when you're tumbling. But if you have a strong core, it balances out a little bit more. You use those muscles as well as your leg muscles, so it's not so much pressure on your leg muscles. And it can also be great on bars and beam, right? If you're starting to wobble, like I said before, you're going side to side like this, having a tight core. Someone is outside screaming. Sorry. Anyway, if you have a tight core and you start to wobble, you can go, you can engage your core and pull yourself back onto the beam, basically. So next we're going to look at some skills that require holding or passing through this hollow shape. The first is the handstand, which is the most important one to fix. And like I said before, using your core will help you stabilize. It helps you keep your balance. And keeping a hollow body in your handstand is how we want to work on this balance. So we're going to look at a few videos of some really, really good examples of hitting handstands and how that can help you do really, really well on bars especially. Those are our examples. We're going to look at bars first. And we're going to look at what happens if you don't hit a hollow in your handstand. Alright, so I do not know who this gymnast is, but I give all credit to the YouTube account Sports Everywhere for their video Gymnastics Fails Uneven Bars edition. Let's play that back a little bit slower. We're going to watch how she arches in her handstand, which is when your back is a little bit bent. I sometimes say you look like a banana at practice. See how she looks like a banana? Her feet are pointing way over the bar instead of straight up and down in a line. And what's going to happen is her feet are pointing that way, and that is the direction she will fall. Here she goes, right off the bar. Just going to watch it one more time. And we're just going to pay attention to how, because she didn't hit her hollow, she couldn't hold that handstand very well. She didn't have a stable handstand or good balance. We're going to contrast that with Miss Elizabeth Price, who is a fantastic gymnast who didn't quite make it to the Olympics, but she's still one of my favorites because just watch her form throughout this video. Every handstand she does, here's the first one, absolutely perfect. A straight line from her hands to her feet. She's looking behind her, she's leaning over the bar, and she goes right into the next skill. It's incredible. Really, really every skill she does, she's going to hit this perfect handstand. And we're going to see it maybe 10 times throughout this routine. But we're also going to look for a couple of other hollows. So you see she's pirouetting here and her toes basically don't move. She's holding a perfect handstand the entire time, and now she's hollowing down, looking behind her, and her toes are leading the way. She does a big kick so she can get over the bar. But her toes are always leading the way when she swings down. See, that's a good hollow. Her toes are a little bit in front. So there's the cast we're talking about, and she's going to do a kip right here, and an important part of the kip is getting your toes in front. And the kip is, I don't know, maybe 70% your stomach muscles, using your core to pull your toes to the bar so you can swing up. And she does it perfectly. All of her skills, she hits every shape perfectly. So when she swings down right here, she's doing giants is what they're called. She swings down with her toes in front, does a big kick at the bottom to get more speed, but her toes are guiding the way the whole time in this hollow. So we can watch it one more time, and we're going to watch it at the regular speed, and I want you to look for every time she's holding a hollow. She's seriously so good. So even though we are not yet doing handstands on bars, it is very important to practice our handstands with exactly the same shape that those gymnasts do. So most importantly, if you do your handstands with your back against the wall, we want to try and get rid of the gap between your back and the wall. So I'm going to show a video of me correcting my handstands to have a more hollow body. So I'm first going to show a handstand that might look kind of like what some of you guys have been doing, where your feet are up against the wall, but your back is not quite up against the wall. Or maybe your legs are up against the wall, but your back isn't. And what we want to do is press our back flat against the wall like that. So learning how to find and control the hollow shape when you're in your handstand is so important, but it's not just for bars, it's for tumbling too. When you think about doing a round off or a back handspring, you have to pass through a handstand and then you have to hollow back down to your feet. And keeping the hollow shape is so important because it helps you get ready for the next skill. So you're leaning back into a seated position, your arms are up by your ears in a straight line, right? They're up, it's a straight line all the way through your spine. Your chest is up, meaning you're not leaning forward, which if you've worked on back handspring drills, you know we don't want to lean forward, we want to sit down in a chair and then jump back. And you're also ready to use those core muscles to stabilize yourself. In a round off, you're rotating. So you do a cartwheel, you hit the handstand, and then you turn and come down. You're rotating, right? And you need to keep your core tight to have a balanced landing and to get ready to jump into the next skill. And with any tumbling pass, landing with a tight core will protect your legs, your ankles, your hips, everything we talked about before for when your feet hit the ground for that impact. So the next thing we're going to do is look at a couple videos of me working on my back handsprings, and we're going to compare how a good back handspring sets you up for more skills and how a bad back handspring leads to an unbalanced, rough landing. So I'm doing a drill for back handspring, so you're going to see me do a little hop forward, but I will still end up right here in that seated position that we look for. So you can see my knees are bent, I'm leaning backwards, so if I wasn't leaning backwards like I'm preparing for back handspring, it would just be straight up and down. My arms would be right there and my body would be right there, but I'm leaning backwards to get ready for the back handspring, still keeping my shoulders a little bit rounded, and then I get ready to reach backwards, and this is super important. I jump straight into a handstand. So you see right there, it's a straight line from my hands all the way up to my feet. My shoulders are really open, which basically just means that it's a straight line there. And this is super important to hit a good handstand because coming out of this, we want to be hollow. So the second part, my hands are going to come off the trampoline, and I'm going to lead with my feet down to the trampoline as I pop out of it, and you can see the hollow shape right there. See how it's a little bit rounded? And that's super important because when my hands come up like this, I get my chest up, I land with my knees bent, and I'm ready to go into another skill. Right? So you can watch it a little bit faster, right? So we jump forward, go through the handstand, and then pop up immediately hollow. Watch it full speed too. Alright, and we're just going to compare this one to a not so great back handspring. And this back handspring here is why I went to the trampoline, because I was not hitting a good handstand and not hollow on the way out. So you can see I still sit back, but when I jump, the first problem is that my jump is a little bit too short. So I sit back and my jump is too short. It almost looks like I'm doing a bridge, like my feet are so close to my hands. And then I never hit a good handstand. So you look at that handstand, there's no way I can get a good hollow out of that, right? Because I'm archy. This is what I mean by archy. When I say you look like a banana, it means your back is curved like that, as opposed to straight up and down like the last back handspring was. And that's super important because now I can't get a good hollow out of it. So I come over here and I have to snap my feet down really, really quick just to land on my feet. That's called pikey, as opposed to hollow, is when you're more of an L shape, like when we sit in our pike on floor for stretches. And ideally it would be rounded. My legs would be up here, and my arms would be up by my ears, and my legs would be up here. But I had to pike down really quick because I never hit a good handstand. I had a really hard landing there. You can see my shoulders kind of collapse a little bit. Had a really hard landing, and then I was never able to hollow through it. And because I wasn't able to hollow through it, I couldn't get a good landing. I ran out of it, and there's no way I could have tumbled more after that. So I can watch this one a little bit faster too. Okay, so now we know how important it is to strengthen and be able to use these muscles, and we can talk about practicing this at home. So like I showed you before, doing the hollow holds and practicing just lifting your arms up or lifting your arms and your feet off the floor is a really, really great way to feel your muscles being used and to start to build them, because if you do enough of those, it can be very, very tiring. Like, that's conditioning that I do all the time. That stuff hurts. That builds your muscles for sure. We also have to think about what our handstand looks and feels like every single time we do one. So, more than just having straight legs and pointed toes, if you're practicing your handstands, you need to think about having your back flat against the wall. Or, some people will say bring your belly button back into the wall, if that makes more sense for you. Another way to think about strengthening your core, we can do push-up holds. So that's a great way to build core strength for bars, especially because a push-up hold, doing a push-up position when you have your hands and feet on the floor and you're ready to do push-ups, that looks exactly like a cast, right? How we kick our feet up on the bar, that's the exact same position. So just like we practice doing our push-ups different ways, you can have your feet up on the couch, you can have your hands on the couch, you could try it like a plank hold with your elbows on the floor and your feet on the floor. We can practice just holding this shape. Think about squeezing your stomach, feeling those muscles. Make sure, though, that you're looking down at your hands, not in front of you. Make sure that your shoulders are over your hands, so you want to lean forward and don't lean back, and we want to keep our butt down. So we're not doing downward dogs, we're doing push-up positions. And this is a really, really good way to think about the shape that you feel when you do cast on bars and how to start using your core on bars as well. So I hope that this whole video gave you some ideas about building your core strength, and I hope it really helped you have a better understanding of the importance of this hollow position in gymnastics, because I know we talk about it a lot and it's not something that's super intuitive, so we definitely need to have a bunch of reminders about it. And we'll do a few more videos like this with other shapes and phrases so that you can help correct yourself and so that you can understand the corrections that your coaches give to you. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all back in school, and I hope we start gymnastics again soon.